Next question. I'm a new attorney in a specialized field of litigation and employment law, but a lot of my firms in my region mostly do insurance defense. I will explain insurance defense, why that is in a moment. And the employment opportunities are limited. I'm coming from a branch office of a larger firm. Should I consider going to a smaller general practice firm, or should I stick to employment law and look at other regions? Okay, so everyone understands there are lots of insurance defense firms. Insurance defense, by the way, is litigation. There are a lot of insurance defense firms. And if you are interested in getting a job and you feel like you're having a difficult time doing it, insurance defense is always a great practice area to go into. It's a great practice area because if you are doing insurance defense, then you're more likely you have a good opportunity to get a position because there's just a lot of demand from it. Insurance defense, by the way, is auto accidents, slip and fall, all those sorts of things, slip and fall, all that sorts of things where people get injured, and insurance companies defend people, and they typically, this job don't pay as much, but there's just a lot of them. And so this person is saying that employment opportunities doing employment law are limited. I disagree. Employment law is not limited, and it's not, because every business out there gets sued for different things. McDonald's gets sued all the time. Everybody gets sued. There's just, you have one little McDonald's and people are getting injured. There's sexual harassment. People feel that I'm not saying there's sexual harassment, but there's usually some sexual harassment. There's people think they're discriminated against. People think they were fired for the wrong reason. That's just a freaking McDonald's, one McDonald's. So they will have things. So I do not think employment law is limited. I do think that employment law for working if you're in a large firm, the problem with working in large firms in employment law, I just want to make sure everyone understands, is employment law is typically in the highest paid law firm. Employment law is almost always limited to defending against class actions that are brought because the companies can pay a lot of money for that. The show is typically limited to class actions. Then the next thing that happens with employment law at the largest law firms is sometimes they do it for established clients, but the problem with employment law is that because there's so many firms, you have like your Littler Mendelsons, your Jackson Lewis's, your Ford and Harrisons, because there's so many firms that do nothing but employment law. In order to do employment law consistently for your McDonald's and your Walmarts and things, someone needs to be able to consistently not charge as much money. So these firms are all not billing a lot of money, except for the major firms. So there are not a lot of big firms that do employment law. The ones that do typically do class action defense, and the ones that don't do that may do employment law, but they're typically not charging as high of rates. So it is harder to get jobs in big firms. But by the way, those jobs are also less stable because a lot of times, because employment law the firms can't charge as much money, or it's more difficult to hold on to clients. Those firms that do employment law, the big ones, often are looking to get rid of their employment law practices. So what would I do if I was an employment law lawyer? So employment law lawyers, the nice thing about them is there are tons of firms in every city that do either employment defense or employment plaintiff's work. There is a lot of money to be made in plaintiff's works in most states, not all. And there's also a lot of money to be made in employment defense. So I do not think that wherever you're working, I don't think the employment opportunities are limited. I will tell you, let me just see if I can do this real quickly. I can open a page doesn't have anything so scary. I don't care where you are. Let's say you're in, I don't know, Oklahoma City. It's not a huge market, right? Oklahoma City, employment defense law firms. Law firm. The way you look for opportunities isn't necessarily to be able to find, hiring partner. Awesome. Interesting. Sorry, I'm going to actually cut this out. Hiring partner is one of my companies. I'm very surprised it's showing up this way. So I'm excited about this actually. Okay. But I didn't even know that company advertises. Pretty awesome. So these are all these firms you can see here in Oklahoma City that do defense stuff. So you can find them. It's not too hard. You have all these firms. You also have, if you want to keep looking for law firms many times, there's sometimes things will come up that show you all of the different places. So you have these sorts of things that come up, these different rankings of law firms. And you could also, and a lot of markets. Like if you're in a big market, let's say Sacramento, California, that's not that big of a market. That's California, employment defense firms. You'll see this where they will just suddenly show you these kind of listings where you start seeing all of these. There's BCG. I love it. You start seeing all these first. Pretty cool. So you start seeing all of these different places that do employment law defense. So the way to find jobs, by the way, I just want to make sure that everyone understands the way to find jobs. And I'm just the way to find jobs. Sorry, is not to find to apply to firms that you're finding on job boards or whatever, etc. The way to find jobs is to find jobs and this, again, this one piece of advice, this one little piece of advice I'm about to give you could change your life and really could. It's going to, if you fully understand what I'm about to say, it's going to be 100 times worth the price of admission or whatever. It's no price, but coming to this webinar, it's going to, if you write it down, it's going to change your life. If you understand it, it's going to change your life. It's going to make it so you never have to worry about getting a job again or being unemployed because no one is doing this. There are jobs, I will tell you, because this is what I do. 85% of Pearson's placements and BCG's placements of our placements. I want to make sure you understand this because these are firms that are paying us tens of thousands of dollars, if not more, to find people. Sometimes they'll pay, if it's a partner, they will pay $250,000 or whatever. This is something that everyone should understand. It's going to change your freaking life. 85% of placements are with firms that do not have openings. So this is my entire business that no one else is doing. Places with firms that do not have openings. No one else is doing this. No, 99% of recruiters do not do this, and recruiters do not do this. And not only that, 95% of job seekers do not do this. Why is this important? So when you apply to jobs, and again, this is so important. When you apply to firms that don't have openings, you are the only freaking applicant. So why would, because no one else is doing this. No, 98% of candidates do this. And if they do, they're only applying to these big firms. They're not applying to everyone. Candidates do not do this. So this is huge. I just want everyone to understand what this means. So why was I searching on Google? I was searching on Google to show you all of these freaking law firms that do your type of work. It's not that employment opportunities are limited. It's that no one's freaking applying to these jobs. You have to be out of your mind. And I don't know why people don't do this. I don't know. It's just mystified me to freaking death my entire damn career. But no one does this. You probably don't do it. If you want to work in freaking Sacramento as a employment attorney, but if you want to work in Sacramento as an employment attorney, look at all the freaking places you can apply. No one's doing this. They'll go to Indeed or LinkedIn. They'll say, whoa, there's no jobs. Screw it. This is what people do. They're like, oh, I got to move. No, you don't have to freaking move. I've seen people working in no jobs, and I do a search for them on Google or in databases, and there's 50 firms doing the kind of work. Like no one does this. You have to be, again, I've been in this business forever. You have to be out of your mind. No one does this, to not do this. So there are employment law opportunities every single where you go. Now, how else do you find them? Again, I'm going to promote one of my freaking own companies, and I'm not doing that. So LawCrossing, which I own, goes to every law firm website that has jobs, every company website, and that we can find, and puts them on there, and they're not advertised. If you put a job on LinkedIn, or if a company puts a job on LinkedIn or Indeed, they're paying to be there. So that means you're only seeing a small fraction of the jobs that are out there. You're not seeing every job that's available. You're only seeing the jobs that people are paying for. So LawCrossing just shows you every job that's websites that aren't advertised. That's it. Works. But anyway, it's not the best for small markets. If you're in like tiny market, like very small example would be town of 15,000 or something is because there's not a lot of ever firms, even 10,000 is, but anyways, I work and live in Malibu, California. There's probably 10 law firms here, maybe 7,000 permanent residents. So again, you have to, but the point is then LawCrossing, I don't want to promote it, but also has what are called archive jobs, which is the hugest, the most smartest thing anyone can do. That's just jobs that a law firm is companies have had in the past and law firms. And if you apply to those, they're likely to do that. I just want everyone to understand the reason I'm being so dramatic about this freaking point is that there are jobs in almost every market, but you have to make them, you have to find them, you have to actually go out and job. Things aren't going to come to you just waiting, throwing your hat in the ring with everything else. If you are applying to a job, what happens is there are anybody with an internet connection that finds a job on LinkedIn or Indeed is just bombarding those employers with openings. And typically what happens when you apply to openings is people are only they're applying to the first openings. The employers typically take people from the first applicants. So if you're like an employer and you get 50 applicants or 100 applicants, like what's going to happen is the first 20 or 30 you're going to look at, and then you're going to try to interview and hire based on those. And the ones that come after, you're just like, I don't want to keep freaking clicking on open and looking at all these emails. I'm just going to look at the initial ones. I'm going to spend my time interviewing those people that I like. And hopefully I won't have to look at more people because this is a lot of work and I don't have time and we're billing. That's how law firms think. So you want to be first to apply, but better yet, you want to be the only applicant. I can't emphasize this enough. If you read this or and you listen to this, then if you understand this, it will give you dividends for the rest of your freaking life where no one does this though. And again, I'm not talking about sending your resume unsolicited to, or Melvin, no, no, Gibson, Dunn and Crutcher. That's an awesome law firm. The only thing I can say is that if you try to do that, send an unsolicited resume to them, probably everyone is doing that. So it's not going to mean as much as that if you send it to a firm that's not large. So that's how that works.